Okay, it's up. Okay, I think that's Comet McNaught. I can't remember. Yes. So here we go. A faint hope. This is based on bitter experience of winter astronomy in the Sunshine Coast. Those of you who caught last year's new moon, full moon episodes, when it coincided with Earth's perihelion and the moon's perigee, the attractive forces go up as the inverse of the cube of the distance between the two bodies, I think. That was a long time ago. So when things get close, the forces go up bigly. And in December, a kayaker could not have gotten under the Davis Bay Pier at high water. That much. You'd be rolling over to get under there. And at low tide, there's a series of piles right near the T, and they were dry at the base, which I've never seen except once. And that was the extent of it. Yeah, the water went up. And a month later, we had 30, 40 mile an hour west wind, meter high waves, picking up all the driftwood and slamming it into the handrails down to the beach and turning them into pretzels. And my word, all the letters to the editor about climate change. I said, no, it's weather. Exactly the same heights of tides. The difference is, yeah, when you get a 40 mile an hour wind and the waves are big, bam, you get hit. And the climate doesn't change overnight. Okay, so we're going to go through it again. There's a new moon, perigee, and we're not that far away from Earth's perihelion. So all the distances were as short as they get. Venus and Mercury, I've missed them. We're starting to see them in the Southwest now. And not being a morning person and living on a slope that faces west, not east, I don't see them in the morning. And Jupiter. And then the Quadrantids meteor shower. And that's a really faint hope because it's right near a full moon. Anyway, off we go. This is a stellarium shot of, yeah, you can see the Geminid label right below the date time thing up in the top, someplace, wherever the hell it is. There it is right there. That's the radiant. You've got Procyon to the left, Pollux, Castor, and Capella to the right. And I've lost the damn mouse again. Anyway, never mind. I won't use it. And you will notice up the top left, the waning moon. That's not going to help. What I think is cool about this is the source of those meteors is not a comet. They don't think it's a comet. Presumably, Phaethon, I think it's pronounced as a hard T. It's like a comet, but it doesn't have a gaseous tail. It seems to shed dust particles. And from what I read, it's because, its orbit is something like 1.4 years. And at perihelion, it's halfway between Mercury and the sun. So, SPF 2 billion might do it. It gets baked by the sun, which if there's any volatiles left, it may be just, it's dried it out. And the solar wind at that distance is enough to take any kind of dust and blow it off. And they think that's why it's doing this. It wasn't doing it hundreds of years ago, apparently. Something's changed. I don't know what. Oh, yeah, climate change. Thanks, Bill. Everything's due to climate change, so nothing is. Anyway, that one, the date for that screenshot is December 14th. That is the peak. And of course, the thing is, if you want to be looking at midnight or later, generally speaking, because then the leading edge of the Earth, you're going around, you're on the leading edge of Earth as it goes around the sun. Doesn't always work because sometimes they come in from different angles, but it's always a good thing. So the Geminids. Moving on.
So is it the night of the 13th?
Morning of the 14th. Not that I ever get up at 4 a.m., but whatever. Yes. And yeah, this is sunset Christmas Eve. Now the lowest, I use a totally fake green horizon. The moon and Venus are at the 5-degree mark. With binoculars, you can pick them out of the twilight haze. Mercury might be a stretch. And that diagonal line, of course, I put the ecliptic in because if you're trying to figure out where planets are going to be going at a certain time of year, morning or evening, whatever, I love having that visual reference. Okay. Otherwise, it doesn't make all that much sense. So there they will be. Mercury, of course, isn't going to stick around for long because it moves very quickly. Venus, as I mentioned at the bottom, it's going to be beautiful this year. Not overly high, but it'll be in the rising part of the ecliptic. Max eastern elongation on June 4th. So it's inboard of us. So its orbital period is not too much less than our own. And it's catching up to us. So it's just going to be hanging up there and quite lovely. Max elevation will be about 30 degrees and due west, which if you think about it, you can see that way after sunset. I think it'll be really, really neat. Okay. Yeah, there we go. That's the path of Mercury in the yellow and Venus in white for December 9th through January 12th. So the 12th is our next SCAC meeting. And that's what the two of them will do. You can see Venus is just sort of boogieing along the ecliptic. It stops a little, well, it ends just a bit short of Saturn. And Jupiter's out there, and it just keeps going. Mercury, of course, goes up and swings around and comes back. And Venus just keeps going.
Do you know when Mercury reaches the peak? Was that in the previous shot? I thought you said June.
That was Venus. The greatest eastern elongation. That is roughly, that would be about 28th, 29th. That's the maximum upper left extension of Mercury. I think I should have labeled them better, but you know, the thing about Mercury is you miss it. Hey, don't worry. 3 months later, it's back. Totally different place, but whatever. And then there's one more of these coming up. Yeah. And I labeled these with the numbers on them. That's the month of April. Now I messed up. This time Venus is in yellow and Mercury's in white. Sorry about that. There'll be a quiz later. And the neat thing is, you look at all the planets that Venus is going to waltz by. Now, 1.5 degrees is about as big as your thumbnail at arm's length. A little bit bigger. Your little finger's about 0.5 degree and your thumbnail's about 1.5. So it scoots by Mercury, December 28th, 1.5 degrees apart. Saturn, 15 minutes apart. That's half the width of the full moon. So that's a close pass. Visually, I mean. And Jupiter, 30 minutes apart. And yeah, if you're into astrophotography, you will get to see the closest approach during the night when, if the clouds cooperate, some of you can probably get pictures. I'm not going to try, and I hope to see some of them. And if you do, I promise I will give full accreditation if I can use them in my Coast Reporter monthly articles. You want to be famous? I'll put your name in lights or in print. And right at the end, July 1st, it comes, oh, so close to Mars. And then it starts heading back because it's starting to come around to inferior conjunction. Mars, meanwhile, is still heading. So there's the old dance of the planets right there. And the nice thing for me is, hey, it's right after sunset. Jupiter gets cuddly. I thought I'd throw that in. It is interesting looking at the configuration of Jupiter's 4 big moons. Because Callisto is on the outside and it takes, what is it, 16, 18 days, something like that, to do this. And one side to the other. It's a long way out. Eo's going around in days. So, and I wrote an article about that. It's a celestial watch. Those 4 moons go round and round like the hands on a clock. If you know what the positions will be at a given time, you can read it like a clock. And that's why navies built the first big observatories, because somebody around the other side of the world needed a time reference. And the moons of Jupiter were it in the 17th century. That was a really big deal because they didn't have accurate watches. And 5 arc minutes is teeny. It's a 1/6 the width of the moon. So you would have trouble picking those out without a telescope, whereas normally you can see them with binoculars. Then there's another one. That's even closer. January 6th. Now with binocs, you're not going to be able to pick those moons out separately unless it's a perfect atmosphere and you're on a tripod. But with a telescope, yeah, you can do it. I'm leaving out the ones where they get occulted by Jupiter, or they're in front of the planet, or 2 of them are behind, because I mean, those happen, but this is kind of exceptional. All righty. And that's the 6th at 6 p.m. dead on. The quadrantid meteors. Yeah, well, it's like a full moon. The Geminids and the Quadrantids have high ZHRs, zenithal hourly rate, much higher than the Perseids. These things are typically 120 meteors per hour. Now, I'm not going to claim I've ever seen anything like that. I've seen the Perseids do that, But then I've also seen the Perseids do nothing for half an hour at a time. So you pay your money, you get your choice. They're named after an extinct constellation, but it still holds on to the name. And this guy, Peter Jenniskens, this is what I found today. They think it's an asteroid. Nobody knew where they were coming from. And it's a very thin, peaky meteor shower. From zip to peak to where to go is like hours. And it seems to be fairly recent. So maybe this is just something that happened, and he claims it's an asteroid thing that's a leftover piece of a comet that broke up. Maybe true, I don't know. But it's, you know, you can find it in the handbook. It's listed there. It and the Geminids have the highest hourly rate. Problem is full moon. So good luck. Yeah. December 7th. This was today's APOD, astronomy picture of the day photo. And it's quite cool. They claim it's the southeast limb of the moon with Mars rising. Southeast would be about 7:30 on a clock face. Well, considering that's the direction the moon was heading, down and to the left, I can guarantee you it is not rising over the lower left limb of the moon. It's got to be upper right one, because the moon went that way in front of it. So other than that little quibble, at least somebody got to see the silly thing. I didn't. I sometimes wonder if maybe if I didn't write about them, we'd be able to see them. However, and like I said, I'm certainly not the only one to get things backwards or upside down with astronomical telescopes. When you look at the charts and then you try and you find your, oh, damn it, I'm turning it the wrong way. You know, star hopping is a whole new adventure, and now I'm lost. So, and the one concession I made, because Bruce always talked about where the sun is during solstices and equinoxes and all this. Yeah, well, there's my contribution. 1348, December 21st. And then the days start getting longer. So, and that's it.